Hi, everybody, and welcome back to the Really Feminine Podcast. We are here today with a very special guest. It's going to be our very first guest on the podcast, and that is my precious son, Michael. Michael, let me tell you, has been on my stories, has been in and out of my Instagram and all of my socials, but I have spoken about my son and some of the challenges we've experienced with him in his life because he's always been labeled ADD or ADHD. He's a very creative young man, but let me tell you, all you moms out there who have a son right now or a daughter who is extremely ADHD, ADD, maybe getting bad grades in school, maybe getting in trouble all the time for distracting or causing fights and fill in the blank, you know the struggle. This is your podcast. Okay, guys, so I want to introduce you to my son, Michael. But first, I want to tell you guys, all the moms listening, you guys will absolutely want to listen to this entire podcast because I raised a son that has severe ADHD, ADD, all the letters. There's more letters he can tell you about. But as a mom, I struggled immensely because he was my first child. So I didn't know what I was doing. This was in the 90s. So we didn't have all the conversations about all these ADHD meds and how actually, in my opinion, difficult they are to put your children on and keep them on. So I was just really raw knuckling it. Like just that's the way I did it. And so I had enough sense about me to understand things that were right and wrong. But I did not appreciate the way that the world treated my son or treated me because I was highly criticized for some of the choices I made. And so as a mother, you would understand that pain and that anxiety that you have when you put your son in school and then you get all these reports back that they're getting in trouble, they're disrupting, they're, tapping their forgot their shoelace or the actual shirt wasn't tucked in. He was at a private Christian school, so it was very strict. And I promise you, if I had to do it over again, I might have chosen something else. But they didn't have concessions for anybody that had any learning disabilities whatsoever. So it made it very difficult for us to actually have a peaceful day-to-day at home because I felt like every time he came home, he was in trouble for something. But not only that, I realized, because he's just like me when I was growing up, that I always forgot things. What I realized was that I had so much anxiety, as I'm sure if you're watching this and listening, you do too. So much anxiety about what was going to happen next, understanding that he just kept forgetting things. But I understood that because my husband was the same way and I was the same way. So I understood in those early days that I wasn't going to penalize him and punish him for continuing to forget things all the time. But at the school he was at, he would be punished if he forgot to get his paper signed every day. He would be punished if he forgot to tuck his shirt in or if there was hair touching his ears because he didn't get a haircut in time. So there's so much, I believe, so much that I struggled with that I know that you must be struggling with that anxiety of that time you pick him up to wonder what is going to happen next. What fight did he get into? Or what did he be disruptive about today? Or let me look at that report card. My stomach would just drop. Same way when I was in school. My sister was straight A's, 4.0. I was straight 70s. I mean, I was celebrating if I got a 75 on my report card. But back in my day, in the 70s and 80s, nobody thought there was any learning disabilities. They just said you weren't trying hard enough and you were not good enough, basically. So with my son, I think because my husband and I had that pressure over us the majority of our life growing up, that we just had this empathetic side of us that thought, we don't care what the whole world says. We can see the character of this child exceeds other children around him. We could see he was generous. We could see he was kind. We could see he was engaging. But other people didn't see that. So I just want you to be engaged here because as a mother, I know that you too are also having this anxiety, this struggle and pull between what society tells you. This child should be getting straight A's and he's a loser because he's not. And all the other kids are getting straight A's. Or maybe he's trying to play sports and he's benched because he's getting a 70 and he didn't get a 89 or above. And now you feel like your child's a failure. Or you feel like, oh my God, if I have to drive to the school one more time and put your shoes on. Because how many times did we get to school when he, at 9th grade, did not have his shoes on? And so what I want to minister to you guys today is this. I hope that this podcast will help to give you some hope and help to make you understand that you're not alone in this, and that your son is not, or your daughter, they're not failures. They're creative geniuses. And so I want to spin the perspective for you, and I want to give you some relief so that at home you can actually turn that thing upside down on its head and realize that these years that your child is in school is not going to define this person being a success or not. I can tell you thousands of people, and I used to put these celebrities and superstars in front of my son and say, look, this person's reading with his fingers on the page. He also has dyslexia. This person was, Dave, who owns Wendy's hamburgers, he didn't even graduate, I think, from high school. But there's so many different success stories of people that didn't get straight A's in school. So I'm here to break the mold and tell you that A's are not going to make or break your child. It is the character and it's the love and the foundation that you build in. So I want to introduce my son to you, and he's going to share some of the struggles he went through as being the kid who was always forgetting something and always feeling like getting in trouble for being a distraction. And then he loved to talk. People would stop listening to him mid-sentence and walk away because he talks so much. And so these are all things that you're going to see as we talk, the inside of his brain. And before I let you talk to him or let you hear from him, let me tell you that he's an artist, meaning he actually does installations of art. You can go to Instagram and check him out on Michael Shellis. He is very, very, very successful in his business. The old saying is starving artist, because typically artists do not make it. But we're going to share with you today the tips and tools that we did not even know what we were doing. Praise God that we figured it out, on pushing him towards what he was created to do and not towards what the system and society and all of the schools decided that they should mold and tell us who our son was. So because of that, we were able to push him towards what he was created for. And now he's a huge success. And so I hope this podcast will help you. I hope it'll give you some hope and some inspiration to flourish your child inside of your home. So without further ado, welcome my son.
Thank you very much.
How was that introduction? Thank you for raising me. And of course, we have my cousin here with us, Michelle. She is our little co-host. But let's just get right in and start with, as a boy, your earliest memory. Let me pull this cord up a little bit. Also, you guys watching, we have like 4 dogs outside right behind the cameras because we're filming this in my home, and it is what it is. That's what I love about this home. So let's start and just talk, Mike, very briefly about, tell me about you as that kid who always felt like you were getting in trouble.
And what age?
Michelle. So
what age did that, your earliest memories of that?
Hold on. Let me start this by give some context of Michelle. So Michelle married my cousin. She met my cousin when Michael was 1 year old, literally the day before his first birthday. So she's been in our life, and she used to be his babysitter when because we're the same exact age.
Didn't you come to my first birthday as one of the first dates was Fergie?
No, we thought that the other day. It was the second. No.
Yeah, he asked me to, and I was like, that's just weird. I don't really know you.
I've known you 24 hours.
On your nephew's birthday.
I passed on that. He did invite. He just thought it was a normal question.
It's what we do.
Yeah.
This is our family.
It's our
we're
family.
doing a family thing.
Yeah,
Would you like to be part of my family now? Or?
But so what's your earliest memory of that? Just kind of, I know you didn't understand that you had that ADHD.
My earliest memory was my first day of kindergarten.
Oh, God. Don't tell that story.
Oh. Well, okay. I'm going to.
Okay. Oh, God.
My first day of kindergarten,
This is gonna trigger me.
I guess I was just talking. I didn't really realize it's school was a place of punishment. And this is really where it sunk in, was this place sucks, because I got swatted the first day of school for talking too much.
On your first day of school?
A brand new kindergartner, first day of academia.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because you didn't go to Mom's Day Out or
No, I just
anything,
jumped
right?
straight into school.
Yeah.
No, he went to Montessori.
He did?
He went to little Montessori when he was 2 years old.
Pre-K.
It was it was what they called a Montessori. It was just a private preschool where he was 2 years old, and that was a great place for you
for a year, or
no, until he was 5.
Okay.
Yeah,
he went one day a
while.
week, and then he went 3 days a week, and then you went into kindergarten.
Okay. Yeah. But yeah, I got swatted my first day
I can't
of
understand it.
being in school
Oh.
for talking too much. And when I say swatted, I mean like a paddle, like a big wooden paddle that you have to bend over and they smack you
5
with
years
it.
old.
So that kind of like set the precedent for like, okay, I don't really like this place. And then I remember kind of just always being obviously my learning disabilities were evident pretty early.
Yeah.
Because I can read, but I don't like to. And I don't like to because when I'm reading anything.
Because you're a visual learner.
Right. I'm a visual learner. And I'll get into what you told my teacher and helped me tremendously after that. But at the first, you're learning to read and all this stuff. I didn't realize that you weren't supposed to have all these thoughts in your head while you're reading something. So I'd read something and read something.
Wow. Listen to that. Say that again.
And while I'm reading, a history book, the chapter we're supposed to read, I'm thinking about, like, while I'm reading, I'm also thinking about what's over there. I wonder what's that mechanism that sharpens a pencil? I wonder, like, what are the little things inside of it that make all that happen with just a little push of the pencil? Or, I wonder if that teacher's ever going to get the last little dot off of the whiteboard.
I used to do that
and I'm
too.
like, does nobody else see this? I can't breathe.
I used to do that too.
And there would be a few times when you get comfortable enough with the teachers, I'd just like get up and everybody go, oh, thank you.
When they're wiping the board down, our boards were green, right? The
Yeah.
chalkboards. And then they're wiping and talking, and then they leave like a line just there.
Yeah,
Everybody's
just
just
sitting there.
hyper focused on the line.
So
That's so funny, Michael. I forgot about that.
those are like the little things in school that I never really
Well,
enjoyed.
and plus you had dyslexia.
Dyslexia.
So that
I got
wasn't, back then, it really wasn't.
I mean, what grade did we have you
Diagnosed.
tested?
you got me. So the school I went to insisted that I would be held back, and I remember you
In
went.
kindergarten?
No,
No,
second grade.
Third, yeah, something like that.
And I went and got tested then at Cook's Children's Hospital. We did an IQ test and then a dyslexia, dysgraphia.
I think you were like fifth or sixth grade then when they tested you.
Yeah, you're right. Because whatever happened, that led to you going to the school and saying, he's not dumb, he just learns a lot differently.
Well, hold
why
on,
don't
let
we
me
do
insert.
verbal tests?
Let me insert something here for all the moms listening. I need to say this. There's many regrets I have. One of them I do not regret is I fought that school tooth and nail. And I just refused for them to bully my child and abuse my child. And I fought and fought and fought because it's not right what they were doing. So one of the things that they said to me, because of course I was a huge pain in the butt for them, was, we don't think your child fits here. We don't think this is the right place for him. We think that he needs to be in somewhere else, wherever. And I should have taken their advice and taken you out right then. But that was a challenge for me. But as a result, Michael, of me pressing down, and I said, that I do not receive that. My son is like the majority of the kids out there. He's got a creative brain. He thinks differently and he learns differently. So no, he's not a square that doesn't fit in your round peg. You're going to have to figure out a new peg to fit him in.
Yeah.
And
they did.
And they did. To their credit, they did.
Yeah. And so like little things, she would let me have fidget things.
Because she had 3 sons that had ADD.
Because they didn't really have like a special ed
No,
department.
nothing.
Like, so
No,
she
but
kinda
we
created
kind of
that,
made
right?
that, which
Yeah.
was called ATS, Alternative Teaching Style, which
Right.
was basically like, the idea of it's great. It was smaller classrooms. We had like 4 or 5 kids in our class. The walls are painted lime green because scientifically it's supposed to soothe you. And then the windows were put higher so you couldn't see out, which is kind of horrible.
This is ridiculous.
But we did kind of get like,
She had a window.
Yeah. We didn't have windows.
well,
in
no,
school.
actually, for the first, so I was like the first
You were the first class
guinea
that,
pig
Yeah.
by myself.
Yeah,
You were
that's
by
right.
yourself?
Yeah.
It was in the janitor's closet at the old campus, and it was in a closet, and we would do this thing. I really liked the lady too, but she would do little exercises like draw the other side of this butterfly in a mirror image, do these little exercises like physical, mental, visual exercises that really got me to focus, I guess. And then from that was the first year of ATS. I used to have to lie to my friends and say, I'm going to a different Latin class because all my friends are going to Latin class and I didn't have to go to that. I'd go to this special class. Then after that year, they realized, oh, there's a lot of parents that want to send their kid to something like this. Let's open a program. And then they started having people move from all over the country to come to this program.
Absolutely.
Called ATS.
Right, that's right. So the push through that we had, and perhaps the struggle that you went through, even though it's not fair to you, I believe spawned off the butterfly effect, which changed the opportunity for so many kids. To the school's credit, they did do something about it.
Right, they did. And it really did make a difference because you were kind of you made them. I remember I was a little embarrassed because I was probably in 3rd grade, 4th grade. And out of everybody, I was the only one that could go sit with the teacher and she'd ask me the questions. And this is like these legalistic teachers that are like, sorry, you forgot the word and. You're like, but you know that I know the gist of how, the 3/5 compromise came into effect. You know I know what that means, but because they didn't say it to your definition, now it's just some sort of like...
It's a bad grade.
Yeah, it's a bad grade, but you know I know the info.
Right.
So the saints that were teachers, a few of them there, would realize, like, he knows the information. Okay, I'll write it as an A. Because I would, I'm very good at listening to things and regurgitating them. But if you ask me to read it and regurgitate it, I'm going to have to read it like 3 times.
Which is why, and I want to also break the mold and give parents permission for this. I realized very quickly that my son was unable to comprehend the reading the lines that he was reading and understanding. And instead of trying to force him to be something he wasn't, I thought, I'm just going to create a path to success. Because he is now, if you were one of these kids that was literally in and out of jail, you were, smoking pot or doing drugs or, getting caught stealing, that would be a whole different conversation. But I also believe that there are a lot of kids who never feel like they can win because they're stuck inside this learning disability or this ADHD, which I now call a superpower.
Yeah, I think
it's a
totally
total superpower.
Yeah.
But whenever it's not being seen as a superpower and it's being seen as you are dumb and you can't do anything right and you're not like all the other kids and you keep getting bad grades, you're going to amount to nothing. Those kids are the ones that run into the arms of addiction because they're trying to escape their reality, which is that low self-esteem.
Yeah.
Right? So if you as a parent do not see that your child has a learning disability, it's not even a disability. It's a difference in their ability. So
that's a really good way to put it.
It's not a learning disability. It's a difference in their ability. So, Michael, when you were 5 years old, babe, you would be able to tell me and Dad things about the solar system, about planets, about history. Me and Dad were like, where did you learn that? And he would sit there as a 5-year-old and he would be on the Food Network. You would be on Nat Geo. You would tell us things about animals. And me and Dad would just look at each other, kind of like we do with Brooks right now. We're like, where did that come from? That's what you used to do. And so we knew you were an auditory listener. You were an auditory learner and a visual learner. So you would talk any adult under the table with facts about science, about history, you're still like that.
Yeah, it was funny. I was thinking about this the other day. So this word I've been writing since I was probably 14 is the word found.
Yeah.
Comes from the song I used to sing with my grandparents all the time from Amazing Grace. I once was lost, but now I'm found.
Right.
But I was thinking through because I was listening to a podcast about photographic memory. And I thought, I definitely have a photographic memory because, being in my art studio, it's a mess. But I know exactly where that red tube of paint is because I put it down there 3 days ago.
Right.
And sometimes I'll be like, I feel like it's here somewhere. Because mentally I remember looking and seeing that at the corner of my eye. Move something and it's there. But how funny, because my nickname in the house growing up used to be the Finding Boy.
The Finding Boy, that's right!
Yeah. And I thought,
oh my gosh.
Not one. That's
What an
cool because the
association.
Finding Boy is now named Found.
Wow.
Wow.
But more so, I was thinking, oh, I was always a Finding Boy because I didn't realize at the time, but I had a photographic memory to where you'd be like, where is that dog leash? And I'd be like, oh, it's behind the door. It fell when you put it on the handle, and like little things like that.
Dad used to always call you my Finding Boy.
Yeah. But from growing up in, in a school that kind of put their foot on me, there was a lot of tools and techniques that I remember you gave me, and a few of these teachers would help me out with like drawing something on your finger or tying a little string around your finger just as a mental reminder. Oh, I
It's
actually
an
I do need to do
association.
that.
Yeah.
So let me ask, I want to talk a little bit about like the social aspect, how you were treated. And once they made those concessions for you with the special classroom, did they treat you differently? Did you still get in trouble for talking?
Yes, I got in trouble my entire academic career, but for like stupid things
But it was mainly the school too.
Yeah, it was just very strict rules. Like we had a uniform, and like I would have my shirt tail untucked in the back with a little bit of my undershirt hanging out. So then I would have to go get a SWAT,
or you get an infraction,
or just like it was never bad stuff. It was just dumb little like forget-me-not thingies.
To be fair to other private schools, they're not all like that, but I want to encourage parents, like whenever you pick your child up at 3 p.m. and they have 3 infractions of the day, this drives me nuts, Michelle, when kids then have to get a spanking when they get home. That is an atrocity because, number one, they've already been punished at school. Number two, they cannot catch a break. So, and now I'm going to go into a little bit deeper of a situation because this is really penetrating me right now. To the wives who allow their husbands to take a belt out and whip the crap out of these kids because they got 3 infractions, or because the school called because they forgot something, or because they were being distractive. To me, the wife that allows that is just as much of an abuser as the husband. And I'm going to say that. Because if you are condoning your husband beating your child for these stupid little things, you are just as much an abuser as he is. And I'm going to call it what it is. It's abusive. And what we have done is taken that and we're calling it discipline. It is not discipline. Because if you start tracking back to the parents are going to have the same exact stuff that happened to their school. You very rarely do you have 2 academic straight A students who get married and have a child who's got ADHD with dyslexia. That doesn't typically happen because you have a different type of brain come out through the child. We never did that to Michael. When he came home with infractions, we would go, oh my gosh, what happened? And so we were learning as we were raising him, we never spanked him. We never disciplined him. He got disciplined because he took our 4-wheeler through our neighborhood down the street of a city. And got pulled over by the cops.
But even then, I got my license taken away. I had my license too. I don't know why I took my 4-wheeler, but
yeah, we got you.
Then you
took
took
your
my
license
license away for 6 months. Because
No. We took your license away for a month, and then you got in your truck and you got caught speeding within 6 months of getting your license at age 16.
Yes.
So Dad took it away.
I got my 3 tickets in a month.
3 tickets in a month. So the state took it away for 3 months, and Dad took it away for 3 months.
Yeah.
That was punishment for me though, because I had to drive you everywhere.
Yeah.
But anyway, going back to that, I think it's disgusting that people punish their kids when they get home from being punished at school.
Well, it stems from like that World War II era of like, beat the dumb out of him sort of thing, sort of mindset. But you think about it, like the people who were the authority when I was growing up were all at the time 60, 70 years old. So they just had we're talking like good old boy Texas, like just give them a spanking. And like that's what they grew up with. So that's what they knew. Now we realize like you're causing trauma to your kids. And they're going to hate you. And like,
that's right.
Spanking doesn't change anything. It just makes you hate them.
Right.
You guys would take away like my guitar.
Right.
Or like little things that you knew that I was like really looking forward to, but I didn't get to do that because I got caught doing something.
We punished you, Michael, and when I say punish, we restricted you, we grounded you on character issues.
Yeah.
We never ever did that with grades because we could see straight up that you were struggling to read. And then finally, when we had you tested, they came back. Remember that lady? I think her name was Lisa. She came back screaming.
Yeah, I forgot about
She
her.
ran into the waiting room, screaming her head off. We thought something was wrong, and me and Simon were like so startled. And she was like, "Oh my God, you're not going to believe what I did. The results are amazing." And we were just like, we don't have a clue what a IQ is. I don't even know. Is good 5 a good IQ? Is 5,000 a good IQ? We don't even know what that means. So she said he tested in the 1 percentile of the entire nation of kids his age and around the 3 or 4 year age around that. He tested in the 1 percentile at an IQ of 148, which that was extremely high. And she said, and the reason it was so low was because his reading is so dyslexic. And she said, the fact that I'm telling you that a 148 was low, it would have been way higher than that had he been able to read without having the dyslexia.
Only issue is I couldn't read the document that told me I was smart. Can I draw on this?
Can I draw on this? So we were able to see like he was an actual certified genius. And I think that's what you're going to find with most creative children is that if you just let them be and watch what they do, you'll watch them gravitate towards what they're good at. They're either always going to want to cook, or they're always going to be, speaking to things, or they're going to like, they're going to be reading all the time, or they're going to be Michelle, do you remember when he was probably not even maybe a year old. It was you and me, and I think it was Emily or Sue. We went to Chili's.
Yes.
And we're the same age. So I was only 22, and Michael must have been a year or two old because he was sitting on my lap, and I was trying to have friends because I got married when I was 20, had Michael when I was 22, so I must have been 23. So I'm thinking back, I'm such a baby. Because Bella's like 21. So I was already pregnant at Bella's age. Mm-hmm. And so Michael's sitting on my lap. And this is to look back and tell you that we could see who he was going to be. If you just watch your kids, they will show you who they are. But he would grab all the forks off the table, and he was creating sculptures out of these forks at 2 years old. Mm-hmm. Like total thing. And we were talking, and I remember this like it was yesterday. Everything he went to grab, I was just talking to Michelle, and I was grabbing it out of his hands without even noticing when I was in autopilot. Uh-huh. And I remember you saying to me, I can't focus because all I can focus on is, I'm sorry, I'm not listening. All I can see is how automatic you are in grabbing the things out of his hands. Do you remember saying that?
Yes, I can remember it clear as yesterday also.
Yeah. But if you give your kids a chance, they will show you who they are. And you can push them in that direction. So let's fast forward, Michael, a little bit. And if you're speaking to parents, like you understood that you were different. You, like you said, all the times that you got embarrassed because people were pulling you into different classrooms, or you weren't making the grades everybody was making, or you forgot your shoes. And you had to be in first period without your shoes. Well, I ran home to get them. Also, let me speak to that. How did you feel showing up in 9th grade without one of your shoes?
I didn't do that.
Yes, you 100% did, because it was our Montecito house, and we would go all the way down Ryan and turn left and then go.
Yeah, I do remember this. Look, I just like being barefoot. I still like being barefoot. I'm barefoot all day. I don't want these shackles on my feet. Like, I like feeling the earth.
But we would go to the school. And I would go, okay, have a good day, love you.
Oh, it was the most gut-wrenching feeling.
And I could just see it in his face that he would.
Oh, my gosh.
Mom.
That, or it was like the lost and found, and I'd be wearing size 12. Yeah.
But one thing I never did, because I knew this was never going to teach him a lesson. I just had to figure out some checklists to be successful. But I was not the mom that said, good, you can stay barefooted all day. I literally drove all the way back home, got your shoes, and drove all the way back.
Multiple times.
Multiple times. Like,
yeah.
But even if I
forgot my backpack or
oh my God.
something.
So
Belt.
Belt.
Oh,
Oh my
belt
God,
was a big thing.
yes.
I had to have a belt or I'd get swatted.
Yes.
And multiple times I didn't have a belt.
So here's the thing. Instead of going, nope, he can get the swats. Nope, he can walk around barefooted. Nope, he can walk around in size 12 shoes. I knew it wasn't a behavioral issue. I knew that it was a mind issue. It was that side of his brain that one side was overactive and one side was not. So I just thought to myself, and I want to speak to parents who are thinking, oh my God, my son does that. Partner with your child for success. Stop being the parent that is going to press down even harder than the world's pressing down on him or her. Partner with your child for success. Like, who else is going to do that if we
that would have
don't?
sucked because at home was like a refuge to
Right.
be beat up at school all day, and like friends would call me dumb, and because I was like we had like 5 kids that would go to these special classes
ATS
together.
classes, yeah.
And we would all, like, everybody else was changing classes like you see in the movies, and we all kind of got like pointed and laughed at and stuff. And it very much got to me to the point to where I ended up just putting up a wall and being like, screw y'all, then I don't care. Like, it's that, or I have to care so much, so I'm just going to go numb. And even to teachers and stuff. I remember you all told me multiple times of like the teachers, I know this is bad to tell a kid going to school, but like they don't know everything.
Yeah,
like,
I did.
They're not this God authority.
Right.
You're allowed to speak back to them
Right.
respectfully, but like you're allowed to state your opinion.
Right.
And so there was multiple times. I remember one time in Spanish class, on Friday we had a substitute teacher, and on Monday we go in, and on Friday they had assigned us homework, and she said you can do it on Monday. So we went in on Monday. Or I'm sorry, she said, I'll be subbing on Monday as well. You can have it done by Tuesday. So me and 2 of my friends went in on Monday and we'll do it tonight because we leave everything to the last second.
And that's another trait.
Right.
You just leave it. And that's
but
me.
But also, like,
You
I do
work
better
under pressure.
procrastination.
Yeah.
It's just, I'll leave it, and then blow through it in 12 hours, and it's better than if I were to spend 2
That's
weeks
right.
on it.
Same. Yep.
So we went into class, and then the regular teacher was there and said, well, where's your homework? I said, well, the sub told us that we could have it done Tuesday. And she said, nope, go see the office. And I was like, okay, I'll just explain to them what happened. Get there, and then I explained it, and their response was, okay, well, we don't believe you. I said, call the sub in. The sub was like kind of one of those teachers that was always around. They called the sub in, and the sub was like, yeah, I told them that. And so after, I just looked at them, and I remember their response was, well, we're going to give you some swats to stomp out any ignorance. Anyways.
Yeah.
And I was like, so this whole system of life is rigged. I get it now.
Oh my gosh.
And that's like such a...
See, and that's the thing I want parents to understand that these
And I
kids,
took them, and I was like, this is so crazy to me.
This is what I want parents to understand that these kids are up against for the most part. Now, there's a lot of schools that are not like that, but the kids are up against so many different personality styles, so many different authority issues, so many different graces, and so many different wonderful traits. The kids are changing classes every hour and dealing with 6 to 7 different personalities. You also have people, these teachers are not gods. They are normal, everyday people who struggle with things just like we do. And so we cannot, even though I am personally a huge fan of teachers, I think they're underpaid and underappreciated and undervalued. I think they should be way more valued and appreciated than they are. But they're humans. They struggle. They have normal everyday issues like all of us do. But we cannot put all our eggs, in their opinion, in their basket.
It's honestly not the teacher's fault.
It's not.
A lot of times it's the curriculum saying if a certain part of your class doesn't fail or doesn't pass, you're going to get fired.
That's right.
And they're like, imagine having to teach some kid who doesn't even know what green, he thinks of the color 7, number 7, when he sees the color green.
Well, not only
what are you supposed to do with that?
Not only that, but you have a lot of teachers now that are up against a rigged system that is for the kids, and the teachers now have no say, but they're being abused at school. So there's so many different, which this is not the point of this podcast, is to advocate for teachers or not. But my point is to parents to hear what we're saying and figure out a way. Like when your kid comes home and tells you what happened, believe them. Like, even if they're lying, you keep sowing in faith to your child. Because if you're not a refuge at home, who is going to be? Where can they come to find refuge? So I'm so glad you said that, Michael, that you felt like you had a refuge when you came home. So let's fast forward to now you're in high school, and let's talk about kind of the way your art world started. Because you used to have full, like, I know you have tattoos now. You know, me and my husband forbid Michael to get tattoos his entire life.
And I did not get them my entire life.
Until how old were you?
When I turned
Until
30.
Joelle came in the picture and ruined it all.
Well, when I turned 30, I realized, like, okay, I'm a 30-year-old man. I can do whatever I want. I don't think he's actually going to grab a brick and rub it off. We'll see. So my first tattoo is actually this SR.
The Shellis Roofing.
And it stands for the company that fed me my entire life, Shellis Roofing.
Yeah.
SPSroof.com.
Yeah.
And I'm talking to all you commercial owners out there. Come on. But that was my first tattoo, just to, like, what are you going to do?
Ease into it. What are you going to do?
Yeah, what would Simon do?
Yeah. But
what did Dad say to you whenever you got your first tattoo? I love the way Dad tries to insult you, make you feel like a drunk.
You ever see a bumper sticker on a Ferrari? No?
Exactly.
But when I get a Ferrari, I'm going to graffiti it, so I don't care. Your analogy is void.
That's so funny you said that.
But the high school years I was, to be quite honest, I wasn't bad at sports. I just didn't care enough to try. And I was starting my senior year.
Michael, you've got to tell the story about Camp Copus.
Well, plus you got into music.
Well,
How old
so
were you
yes,
when you really got into that?
So my
5?
grandfather, her dad, kind of raised me in music. He was a really good piano player, had bands his entire life. And only since, it's weird because he could only play piano, but he taught me saxophone, drums, bass, and guitar, and piano.
The basics of it, yeah.
Yeah. So that it was always my refuge of, like, they would have to ground me from.
I'd have to take his guitar away to
She'd be like, no TV. I was like, okay.
Okay.
It's fine.
Perfect.
Give me that guitar. Because he would walk around
Can I
with
at least have YouTube so I can look up how to play Smoke on the Water or something?
Yeah. He would walk around with this little guitar in his arms 24/7, just strumming and playing. But that was one of his soothing mechanisms. And those dogs are still trying to get in the house. Go ahead. Keep talking.
But yeah, so music was definitely it still is like a
soothing.
That was like your first outlet, right?
Yeah, and I'll do that most mornings before I start painting. I've just, like, played on my walls with a few fun songs that I'm currently loving. And it's just kind of like an athlete stretches, I think creatively, and actually, like, your neurons spark in a different way when you are a musician, but you're thinking about painting. I don't know what it is, but I'll think about some fun, cool ideas whenever I'm just playing drums. It's kind of like reading. I can do I can read it, but I'm thinking about this over here.
Same.
And I think that goes to, like, this whole ADD, dyslexia, dysgraphia, all the things I was labeled with are honestly, like, in the last 50 to 100 years, maybe it's a thing. But that archetype of human being has been on this earth and honestly built most of the cities.
That's right.
Since the dawn of time.
That's right.
Because
Come on. That's right.
We're the ones that, for boys and girls, of just, you think about a situation and you can think about it differently. Or you can think of a fix to a problem more creatively than just like, oh, well, you have to do this, this, this. You're like, why don't we take those two parts out and just go this way? And it's not like I'm smarter than you think. I think there's a lot of people who are way smarter than me, and we call those people accountants because they can actually add.
And lawyers.
Like, I've tried to do QuickBooks and I get everything wrong, and you just
So
it's
numbers.
just not my strength. But my
But
strength
what did I
is
teach you about your strengths? Staff.
staff your weakness.
That's right.
Yeah, and
Pay
I'm not
somebody to do what you're not
good at bookkeeping, so I could hire a bookkeeper. I'm not good at remembering to pay my water bill on time because the shower might cut off because I lost my credit card in the wash. So I had to order a new credit card, and I forgot to put the new auto pay on for my water bill. That happens once every 3 months.
Yeah. Yeah.
And typically I'm 3 months late whenever I have to do it. I'm like, auto pay, I forgot.
Yeah.
So little things in life
That
is
sets you
hard
up for
for
success.
me, which, you know, sometimes I struggle with not feeling like an adult because I have such a fun, playful life. But when you realize, like, I was raised in a very entrepreneurial family to where it wasn't a conversation of can you, it's how can you, right?
So when did art come into the picture?
Art started happening. I mean, I started painting. I don't even remember. I've just always been.
You used to paint on your arms and legs.
Yeah, that's a whole nother
school,
thing.
right?
I used
Oh,
to
yeah.
doodle
Did you
in
do
my
that at school?
arms,
Did you get in trouble?
Yes.
and I would get swatted because tattoos were a sin.
Oh, God.
And then I would rub it off and do it again the next day.
And your legs were
And anything that this hand could get to would be covered
in
all day, every
art.
day in doodles. And that wasn't because I was trying to be mischievous. I was just bored in class. And I remember you told me, like, just get through it. Like, I have no magical words. You just need to get through it. Don't get in trouble. Don't get arrested. Don't do, like, you know, dumb things.
Well, we focused more on character and behavior than we focused on grades.
Right.
Because even though grades are a good indication of where you're at, and I understand the importance of grades, it was not going to be what dictated my son's success in
Well,
life.
you could see I was trying. I wasn't just
Yeah.
like, oh, I don't care about this test. Like, I was really trying, but it would be trying for me and excelling at that would be I got a 72.
Right.
Yay, at least you didn't get a 64 this time.
Right.
And that's, like, funny to say, but also, like, there's things that, you know, the kid sitting next to me would get 100 because it just made sense to him, but he couldn't build a deck.
Right.
And I was
Come
building
on.
a deck with that all weekend. And
That's right.
so I could sparse out how many 2x4s I'm going to need at a 16-inch gap for, you know, a coated, studded wall. But I can't tell you how the Rosetta Stone was found.
So wait, I want you to tell the story about the time you were in class and you were so confused why you had to know this useless
was
trigonometry or algebra,
3.
whatever, and go, I can just use my phone for that. What did the teacher say?
Yeah,
This is
so
such a good answer.
The teacher, like, I wasn't trying to be smart aleck or anything. I was just simply asking, like, why do I need to put letters and numbers together to come up with a squiggly line and the equal sign? I don't understand what this is for in life. Like, we're here so we can be better further on in life when we get out of this place. What is this going to do for me? And she said, well, when the grid goes down and, you know, no internet's available
And you can't use
and you can't use your phone, then what are you going to do? And I said, ma'am, if the grid goes down, algebra is like the least of my worries. We're going to need to learn how to make a fire, hunt.
All right, so let's carry on into kind of how your art career started. Do you remember Courtney buying your first painting? Was it $100?
So my first painting I ever remember selling was to my algebra teacher, and she asked me to do a painting of a guitar for her husband, and I charged her $150. And I thought I was rich in high school. Yeah, I remember I did that, brought it to school, and then from there, I've always been painting all of my bedrooms, something that y'all did very well.
I was going to say, let's talk about your bedroom walls.
Yeah, so
and the carpets.
something that y'all did very well, which I see a lot of parents freak out if their kid draws on the wall. I'm like, why? Paint is so cheap, and it's very easy to do. Just paint over it when you move.
In your room.
And
Obviously, I didn't let you paint walls in my living room, but
No,
Yeah.
but I had it was like okay in my space.
in your space, yeah.
Right. Y'all gave me the game room as
Yep.
my bedroom, and
Yep.
that game room was almost maybe 1,300 square foot.
Yeah, it was
a
pretty
huge
big.
room.
Yeah.
But in that, and it's cool because I've always had everywhere I've lived has always been an extension of me. A lot of places are not, it's just a bed and a TV, and
Right.
you are whatever you go do from 9 to 5.
Right.
So my bedroom, my first house, now my studio has everything in it, and it's like a pacifier for my brain, because I'm in there and I have all my toys around me, and it sounds very childish, but I have my colors, I have my little pianos and guitars, but it is what it is, and it's just
My colors.
yeah, and it's a fun place that I've always had that of a refuge of of a space that, you know, like I'm king
A
in
creative
here.
space.
Yeah.
It's your space.
Right.
Yeah.
So, you know, y'all always encourage me to just do whatever you want, obviously within reason. But like, grandma was always good at this of I can do whatever I want. Whatever I want to put my mind to, I can go do that.
We would always say to you, you can do anything you put your mind to.
Yeah.
You will be successful at whatever you choose to do.
And you get told that enough, followed by a Greek grandfather who tells you that you are the best thing in the world. Like, you're very smart, Michael. Such a genius boy. Kiss me on the cheek, my granddad. But all that comes...
That was my husband's dad, Michael,
You know,
who we named you after.
Yeah, so I had a very, like, you know, at school was a lot of tumultuous time and being called names and stuff. But at home, I was told I was genius, that my shoes are better than everybody else's by my granddad.
You got to explain that.
My granddad would say, look at their shoes. They're trash.
Wait, you got to do it with his accent.
I'm
now.
not very good at it.
Yes, you are. You're hilarious.
Ella, Re, look at their shoes. You are better than them. You have brown leather shoes. Genius boy.
You're so bloody smart.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my God. I can't believe it. Like, granddad was always building into me.
Yeah.
So was grandma. So
Yeah.
were all y'all.
And Papa
like,
too. Papa always.
Everybody. And thinking back, now that we have little ones in our family and we make a really big deal out of them doing something, it's totally like, I grew up thinking I was just really good at everything. Even though I wasn't at some things, y'all always would tell me, like, wow, you're such a genius. Wow, you're so good at this. So growing up, just assuming.
Your words create your world.
Exactly. So growing up, just assuming I could do anything, I tried everything. So, you know, I'd go hunting with Dad or build a kitchen in the backyard, like an outdoor kitchen area. And when I say build, like, we were pouring concrete, laying rebar.
Right.
I was learning how to lay bricks and like.
Right.
A lot of times, you know, it's probably a lot easier if you can just hire somebody to do it. And it wasn't even a money thing. It's just Dad grew up building.
Dad was never
We grew up building.
Yeah.
And it was always just like a fun weekend thing.
I got to tell the story. I'm thinking when we had our RV, the big, whatever, it wasn't a fifth wheel. It was like the big bus, remember? And we were driving down the highway and it was pouring down with rain. You were 8 years old. I'll never forget this. And Dad couldn't see behind him on the behind cameras. You know, the bus had behind cameras so you could see behind you. And Dad pulled over. You're 8 years old. And he says, Michael, get out and go to the back. It was pouring down with rain. I don't remember where we were going, but it was pouring down with rain. And he goes, get out and take this cloth and go clean the camera so I can see behind us. Hurry up. And me and Simon get into a fight.
Climb up on the ladder on the back of the bus on the side of the highway.
Yeah.
Somewhere like Biloxi, Mississippi.
Because I was like, no, he's 8 years old. No, he's going to get wet. He was like, he's fine. He's going to learn how to be a man. I'm like, he's 8 years old. And me and Simon would get into a fight. And then Michael would be like, walking to the back with a little... But he would always make you get out and do things in the garden with him. Get out and learn how to build something. Get out there and go clean this and go take this.
It was really just learning how to work with your hands.
That's it, yeah.
And just like not in necessarily like labor with your hands, but just how to be a competent human being and figure out any kind of physical puzzle with your brain and your hands.
And the thing we always focused on, and we knew even at such a young age, and I didn't know anything of what I know today about the brain and the mind connection. I didn't know any of that back then. But what I can tell you is, to moms listening, I thought to myself, I've got to switch the perspective as soon as you come home. As soon as you walk through the veil of that door, I need you to feel like a success. Like, I need you to feel like you're in your castle now. Everybody's for you. Everybody's cheering you on. And no matter what people tell you at school, because I felt, Michael, like we were up against a massive force of condemnation at school. Like,
well,
I felt
at
like
school, but it's also the generalized idea in society right now.
Right.
Of, you know, from 3 to 5, whatever, to you're 18 years old, you have to do this. And yes, you do. You're going to get truancy. Like, you have to go to school.
Right.
But
let's make it the best we can.
But let's make it the best we can. And also, like, that doesn't define you.
Right.
You can be an entirely different person.
Right.
You can be your own self.
Right.
And you're going to have to go to that school every day.
Right.
5 days a week. But just don't think that this is your version of success. 'Cause
Right.
you can be so successful in other ways.
But I remember always telling you, and Dad always told you, because Dad left school when he was 15.
Yeah.
Because he was just tired of the condemnation every day and the kick down.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, you can see how successful Dad was because he used his brain to make his success.
Well, something you always hammered in at like dinners and stuff. I don't really understand the families. I've had some friends that they're so weirded out that we talk about money because that's something you don't talk about at the dinner table. Like, why? It rules everybody's entire day for the rest of everybody's life.
Right.
Money.
Right.
Not the love or the obsession of money, but you do have to figure out how to have some of it.
Right.
To be able to eat.
Right.
Right?
Right. But we taught you more about our failures and our successes.
Well, it was the talking and listening, and then I'd go to work with my dad and watch him go sell a roof.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how many times I've been in a kitchen just like this, and I'm sitting there quiet, like from the earliest memories I have to all the way till I was 19, 20, where he would be talking to a customer, and you understand, yes, how to sell people on things, but also like just how to be a genuine human being and create connection.
Right.
Because all sales is just connecting with somebody.
That's right.
And Dad was always very good at that. You guys, you were a very hard worker. You had 5 restaurants.
Yeah.
That you were at most of them.
Yep.
So growing up, I kind of always had this, if you bet on yourself, good things will happen mindset.
Right.
Which is why I think I wasn't ever encouraged. I wasn't discouraged on the idea of not going to college.
Right.
You said, if you want to go, great. Like, I think you could do this. Like, I would probably have been in construction if I had gone to college. There's nothing wrong with that.
Right.
It's a great industry. And I have a little side business where I'm making tiny homes because I love construction.
Right.
Like I like hearing nail guns going.
Right. Right.
It's my childhood basically.
Right.
But having that skill set of just knowing how to be a human being on this earth and talk to other human beings
Right.
was the most valuable thing, I think.
Well, and I think also back to the moms listening and to the dads maybe listening, that wherever you can build in cheering, accolades. I mean, I remember, Michael, we used to find these smallest things to make a big deal out of because we knew you were up against pressure at school for failing at school. And do you remember we did the C for Cupcakes at my restaurant?
Yeah, you got on Jay Leno.
I got on Jay Leno.
Was it Jay Leno?
Yeah. We did a little advertising, and because of this theory that I'm telling you, like, we needed to find something to celebrate at all times. So instead of you failing, if you passed, we were going to celebrate that because you passed, We knew that we would be asking too much of you to push you into the A's because that was just not our lot. You were making straight A plus in other attributes of life. Just because it wasn't inside the 4 walls of school, again, we could see you could out-talk any adult. Like you were at 7, 10, 12 years old at a table with adults, out-talking them on history. Out-talking because you were audible and visually learning from TV, which is why I hate when kids are, like, I think kids should have screen time to learn from these great programs because it's literally infiltrated. But I do think too much screen time is too bad. But I think that for us, it was like, how many ways can we build in success? So at one of my restaurants, I had a thing called C for Cupcakes because my last restaurant, we were known for our cupcakes. And so I bought an ad in a local magazine, and it was a full page ad, and it said, if you are a straight C student, like you've always gotten between 70 and 80, always, you tried your hardest, but that's as good as it gets. Bring your report card in and I'm going to give you a free cupcake. And that
you got so much hate over that.
Went crazy.
You also got an equal amount of hate. You got love too.
Moms coming in by the groves, just giving me like tears in their eyes. Thank you so much. My son tries so hard. He's always shot down and pushed down because he can't get above an 80. My son is he really is smart in other areas, like trying to explain to me. I had women coming in so excited, and their kids so excited to be celebrated for something, because in our society, you have to be a straight A student, 4.0 and above, to have any acknowledgement. And then this also is what really irritated me, is that the alumni never celebrated anybody that didn't go to a Big 12 school or a Big D, whatever they call it, school, college. And I'm thinking, not to be braggadocious, but not to compare yourself to anyone at that school, but how about celebrating the successes of the straight C students who actually went on to make a success for themselves? Mm-hmm. How about actually acknowledging the other way of earning money and the other way of being successful? So I said, and so Jay Leno actually put this on his show when he had a Jay Leno show, which used to be the Johnny Carson show, and now is Jimmy Fallon. And I love Jimmy Fallon, by the way. He put this up, and he showed my ad, a little restaurant in Argyle, Texas, but he was making fun of me. He was making fun of me. Like, how low, he actually said, how low has our society come that there's a little restaurant in Argyle, Texas that will award your child for making a C.
Guarantee you Jay Leno did not get straight A's.
That's what I said. I would love to go back because he's a high-end creative. I'd love to know, and I've actually heard him say this a couple of times on one of his shows, that he struggled all through school with attention deficit. So I think, come on, Jay. So anyway, I thought it was funny because my phone blew up that night. Did you see Jay Leno? Because he was talking about us. But I had administrators call, I had superintendents call, I had teachers call and try to scold me and say, how dare you award mediocrity? I said, how dare you call a child striving so hard and can't get above a 75 mediocrity? How do you get to say that? And so it became like this really big struggle. But I felt so good standing up for those kids who were like me, who were like my husband, who were like you, and all these other kids who just weren't able to make straight A's. I honor the kids that make straight A's and work really hard for those grades. But I also think that there's room for all the other kids in life who have learning disabilities or other abilities, and who just struggle with that. So let's quickly start talking, because we're going to wrap it up here in just a minute. But I want you to quickly tell how you started building your art career in an industry where everybody says that's a place you're never going to make money. And it's very rare to see an artist make the kind of money that...
Yeah, so there's two sides of this. I get asked this question a lot on Instagram. Like, literally on the way here, some guy just asked if he could take me to coffee and pick my brain.
Yeah.
I said, sure.
Yeah.
But oftentimes I don't like the answer I give them because it's so simple. They're looking for a secret sentence. Or like, go to this website and post things. Mm-hmm. And that website is called Instagram. Mm-hmm. So you probably should do that. Mm-hmm. But I was trying to be an actor for 5 years. Mm-hmm. Because in my mind, I thought, I want to make a lot of money. I don't want to have a boss. Mm-hmm. And I want to paint all day. So if I be an actor, I could probably get a few movies and just, because, in the 2010s or before 2010, that was when actors were still like movies and like, wow, action figures. Now it's kind of, if I was that age now, I'd probably say I want to be a YouTuber or a blogger or something. But just something that I didn't have to have a boss in, so I could paint. But the funny thing was I never told anybody so I could paint. That was just... you used
to say all your life, if I could just paint all day and make lots of money doing
but I never believed it was possible.
That would be my dream.
Right.
But your words create your world.
Yes, but then there's also that verse, I can't remember it, but basically... God will give you the inner desires of your heart.
That's right.
Innermost desires of your heart.
That's right.
What's the other part of that?
Well, there's a bunch of different
parts
of that, yeah.
My faith is the biggest reason that I'm doing this today, because on paper, it doesn't make sense. And there's been so many times where, I only have a month of runway left, and oh my God, something's got to happen.
Yep.
Because it's a little too late in my life to go find a career.
Right.
And I would if I had to, and I'd definitely go into construction. But I've never had to because of the word faith.
That's
right. And I think, you don't have faith unless you, or what I heard something the other day. The word test is in the word testimony because you have to go through the test
to have
first.
The testimony.
I don't know how many more tests I have, but regardless, it's a it's like you work your muscles out. Like you lift one time and your muscles get a little bit bigger. It's like faith. You see how the situation you're in is scary, and there is no way that like I could study or Google my way through this. It's sitting down and getting right with God, and then from that, not saying if you're right with God, everything good will happen to you, but you start seeing things in your life that you think, wow, I cannot believe that just happened. There's no other way of explaining this other than, thank you, God. I cannot believe this. I just randomly got this text.
Yeah, right.
And there was one time when I first moved into my house that I was like...
You bought a house.
I bought a house when I was 24. I lived with my parents till I was 24.
And we were like, why do you want to leave me?
Yeah, very Greek and Mexican family.
You're supposed to stay home until you get married.
But I enjoyed being at home, and I would cook for them every night.
85.
And it was a great home life, so I never really needed or wanted to leave.
Yeah.
But at 24, I was like, it's time.
It's embarrassing now.
Yeah, it's time.
You were like, Mom, I don't want to leave, but it's embarrassing now.
I have to.
It's the same
sorry.
thing Jade said.
Yeah, but so buying my first house at 24, it was probably a few months after that I realized like I have to keep making this amount of money every month
to pay your bills.
And I was painting out of my garage, and I worked out of my garage at my house for 6 years until I got enough clients to be able to go rent a big studio in Dallas. So now my house is like a nice place of rest, and then my studio is where it's just everything all the time.
Well, we should do part 2 in your studio.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
And show everybody watching what your studio looks like and what your environment is.
So to go back on the being an artist, being a full-time artist when you're not supposed to be making money at this, faith is a big reason, but also something I learned growing up, fortunes in the follow-up, mate. Fortunes in the follow-up.
That's what your dad always said. I love when you imitate Dad.
It's a thing you're raised with to learn how to follow up with people, how to be a little bit of a salesman, and how to say, oh, you don't like red? Well, I have a painting in black. Oh, you don't like black? Well, I can do a painting in white. That's why I have a lot of different styles, because whatever your house needs, I would love to do that. And I don't necessarily call myself like an artist, because I don't paint like just a blue dog. I don't paint just trees. I can paint you a blue dog or a tree, but I kind of paint whatever is going to fit your personality and how I see it.
And tell the story of your family. I noticed you do that.
Yeah, so that's something I like to do, is kind of weave in fun, interactive, inside jokes. Like something, if we ever did a painting, when I need to do a painting for you, is go jump in the lake. And I will put like 5 L's on that, because that's a thing in our family. Where it was like just a funny thing of, oh, go jump in the lake then if you didn't like what they said.
Well, but that was good. That was what my family did my whole life growing up. If they said, hey, do you want to go eat? No, I don't want to go. I'm tired. Well, go jump in the lake then. That's what we used to, because I don't know why we just always said that.
I don't know, but it's a family thing.
You grew up hearing that, but when you were a little boy, you couldn't say it all, so you'd say lake.
So, I like putting little things like that in paintings, but it's more of a, I treat it like a job.
Yeah.
And when you're raised by 2 parents, you don't have to answer to anybody but themselves and to each other.
That has its peaks and its...
Oh, it definitely has its peaks and its valleys.
And its struggles, yeah.
But there's some times where I'm like, man, would a salary life be easier? And the answer is yes, it would be. Because I can turn my brain off on the weekend. I'm not having to be like, oh, I got a job. I got to go right now. Sorry, I know it's Saturday, but I have to work until 2 a.m. because this is going to mean I can have 3 months of nothing. 3 months of like everything's paid for if I hustle now. So you and Dad, I've always done that. Like, you answer to yourselves, which means you work harder than if you were to answer to somebody else.
Right.
So I kind of took that in a way of life, and have always just been like a wheeler dealer and made it work.
Right. Yeah, and I think also what I think is so cool is that one of the things that's important that I want people, you tell your side of the story, Michael, and because I know we've talked about this privately, but I just want people to hear why you thought, like, what do you think, if for those moms listening now, and they think my kid's only going to be successful if he goes to college or if he does this or he does that, but they're showing that they really love I don't know, building cars. They really love tearing computers apart and putting them back together.
I think trade school is a great idea.
Me too.
And I think college is not going bad on college at all. because there's a lot of people. I have a good friend, Luke. He needed to go to college because now he's a petroleum engineer.
Yeah.
And then he had enough of that pie, so he went and got his master's and his law degree.
Yeah.
And now he's a lawyer in the oil and gas field. You're like,
Yeah.
you should go to college.
Yeah, definitely.
Now, 90% of my friends who went to college for an English degree, and now they sell commercial lighting.
Yeah.
I'm like, so you did that because that's what the country says you're supposed to do.
Right.
You go to college, you spend 4 years studying, and then you get out and you get a job in something that had nothing to do with it. You just spent either you or your parents' money in. You're going to be in debt for the rest of your life to get a piece of paper to tell a human being, yes, I'm competent.
Well, that was in our day, Michael. You had to have a degree in our day.
Right, but this is our day now. So
no, it's a different thing now. Billionaires are being made off of social media and YouTube and trades, and it's a different era now. So people do have more options. And we also
have the internet, so you can learn. And this is my big thing. Like, I wanted to learn how to weld. So I bought a welder and looked at like 2 videos on how to weld. And by the end of that 30 minutes of the 2 videos, I could figure out how to weld.
But here's the thing, I want to speak to that, because that's, a lot of people can do that. But I think the gap is that kids don't believe they can do that because they're constantly beat down, either by the world or by parents. And so I think that it's important to acknowledge for parents who are in the throes right now of raising kids, is that you have to instill into those kids, even the ones who have the learning disabilities, the behavior issues at school. If you start coming alongside of your child and you start to celebrate everything you can find, and then assist them through their weaknesses, like walk with them through their weaknesses and stop beating them up, for crying out loud. And if you keep pushing them towards the things that they're good at, we would say, let's not look at that because that's something that is a weakness. Everybody has weaknesses. Let's look over here to the things that you're good at. Michael, here's a pen, here's a paper.
Y'all would buy me, y'all bought me my first guitar for getting all C's.
Right.
And that was an actual thing because I had worked hard for where I was at. They could see I was actually really trying and actually reading a book for once. And so I got my first guitar, and then that turned into, I had a fleet of instruments as like good job gifts, I guess.
Right.
But you're celebrating who I was and who you could see I was.
Right.
I think if your kid or children are different and they learn different, maybe they're quote unquote annoying or they're too fidgety and stuff. That's an over hyperactive mind, and that's not a bad thing.
That's right.
They're thinking, and they're thinking 10 minutes down the line when most of the people are still thinking in this.
Right.
So celebrate that and keep them busy. So many kids I see that, little 3-4-year-olds that want to be crazy and fidgety and go play with that and get dirty. And the mom is like, no, sit down.
Oh, that's terrible.
For the entire 2-hour meal while we're at dinner. Now, I do think, yes, you should have. You shouldn't have unruly children.
Learn how to sit at a table, but be realistic that 2-year-olds and 3-year-olds cannot sit still at a table for an hour and a half while adults are talking.
Well, they're little humans. They're learning about the world constantly, every day.
Right.
But I think, me and you had this thing, and this is very good for people who are listening that don't have, or that have the kids that are overstimulated, was I was labeled and quite honestly, probably annoying I didn't have friends until I was about
6th grade, 7th grade.
No, 9th or 10th grade.
Yeah.
I had friends, but I would always not get invited to birthdays. I could sit with people at the lunch table, but I wouldn't get invited out. And I knew that. I could see it, and I could see all my friends on Friday getting into somebody's car, and I was having to go home. Well, then you started teaching me, we'd have this little signal. And if I
2 fingers, and if which you've done to me before,
and if you see yourself getting too excited, and but interrupting a lot is a big trait of people like me. We're not trying to be rude. We don't think what we have to say is better. It's more just your brain is oh, I have a thought. Yeah, I'm going to say this with that. Yep. And that's a conversation between me and you. And then we'll go silent and go, what were we talking about?
What were we saying?
But to friends who don't understand that, and we're all just children, when I'd get annoying, you'd do this. You do like that, and just, so that's, as long as you could twist your fingers and I could see it, I'd know.
I was just putting 2 fingers up in the air like I'm showing you number 2 or a peace sign, and I would flicker them back and forth, and that was our sign to each other that I taught Michael that when you're getting hyperactive and you can see that you're getting to be too much for people,
do this and take a breathing technique.
Go ahead and finish that.
The breathing technique was the box. You breathe in for 3 seconds, hold for 6, and then
exhale for 7 or 8. Yeah.
And that would like
so it's breathe
recenter
in,
me, make
breathe
me
in
not
for 3,
annoying.
hold for 5, exhale for 6 or 7 for people listening.
Yes, and that would give your brain enough time to like reset and kind of catch up with itself, and then you're back in the room.
And that would also be my signal to say to him, you're starting to get too hyperactive, bring it down, because people do get irritated by that, but I needed you to learn how to self-regulate.
Right, without embarrassing the kid and be like, hey, stop, you're being annoying.
Right.
It's just like you and I
or
know.
dragging them out of the room and spanking them because they can't control them. I mean, there's so many things we do wrong as parents. Like, come alongside of them and be the strength for their weaknesses. You are their parent. They are your child. Like, that's what I want people to hear. Of anything else, like, come alongside of them. You be the biggest cheerleader. You change the perspective to send them into the direction of success. Because if you keep telling them they're a disappointment, they're a failure, you can't do anything right, look at your grades, if you don't pick these grades up, you're going to end up being a failure, you never listen, you're always interrupted, you're always in trouble, you're such a bad kid, I don't know what I'm going to do with you. Like, all those words literally beat down a child's subconscious mind, which then affects their conscious thinking, which then affects their behavior and their outcome. But if you are able to control yourself, because a lot of parents are traumatized people walking around, control your mouth and control your own anger and frustration, and stop living vicariously through your kids from your own failures. Understand that when that is about to come flooding through your mouth, stop yourself, because think, how would I feel if someone was constantly telling me what a failure I was, or if somebody was constantly telling me at work how I can't do anything right? How would I feel about that? Think about how you would feel if you're on the receiving end of what you put out to your children. So let me encourage you in this. And as we wrap this up, and we'll do it's probably going to be a 2-part podcast. We'll probably do the next part with you at your studio because I want to continue the conversation. But let me wrap this up by saying this. Have an intention and a focus to be your child's number one cheerleader. Have an intention and a focus to let your child know that you are the one that is for them, that you will always fight for them, that you will believe them. Even if you know they're lying to you, say, you know what? That doesn't sound like truth to me, but I choose to believe you today. I choose to believe you because and speak life into them. You're a young man of worth and value. You're a young man that I love so much and I believe in, and I believe you're going to do great things in this world. I believe that you're going to do more than you can ever imagine. You cannot believe the words that are coming out of your mouth and how they can sculpt and shape your child's life.
I also think you should keep children busy.
Yeah, for sure.
Not to say your kids are like my dogs, but my dogs are 2 very athletic breeds of dogs. So if I don't want, when I first got one of my puppies, I'd come home and something would be ripped up all over the house. You taught me, like, don't be mad at him, be mad at you because you didn't take him on a run.
That's right.
And now he's bored in this tiny house and doesn't know what to do. This is just him getting his energy out.
Right.
Same thing with kids, but maybe it's not chewing something, maybe it's getting in trouble or blatantly ignoring you sometimes, and just things that you don't want them to do. Go to Home Depot and buy that kid a tool. Right. Like, it's like the toy store.
That's it.
What do you want to do? You want to learn how to have a saw, a welder? Do you want some wood and try to make a little sculpture out of it? Just keep their hands busy, because people like us need to stay busy.
Stay stimulated.
My pacifier is being really busy all the time.
Yeah.
And I love it.
Or walking through Central.
That too. But when we go on vacation, I get angsty. And this is like a rule in my family now of like, I only got 4 or 5 days max anywhere in the world. Unless we're there doing something. Yeah. And I don't mean touring places and going trying new restaurants. Like, me and Dad went to Guatemala to do a roof for a missionary. It was a great trip because I had something to do during the day. And then at night, I'm not already bored of the little town. I'm like, I want to go explore it.
Right.
So just keep them busy, encourage them. Look into some mushrooms. Don't put your freaking children on meth, basically.
You're right. It's the mushroom supplements. Yeah.
Mushroom supplements, ashwagandha, lion's mane, reishi,
L-theanine is
cordyceps,
huge.
L-theanine. Just Google it. You'll find tons of them. But that makes a huge difference for me as well. I think God put everything on this earth for everybody, and if you just know where to look, it'll help you through it.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. I firmly believe in that too, and I think
the next podcast we do, let's do a painting together
yeah.
while we're doing a podcast.
Let's do that.
That'd be fun.
So just to recap for the parents listening, what do you believe is the best thing that would work for their child at age 5 to 10 as far as like supplements are concerned?
Supplements for that
And
young
then
of an
10
age?
to 15 and 18, yeah.
I would say, honestly, a big part of that is diet as well. Because technically I shouldn't have gluten, which, you think like, okay, gluten maybe, so I have psoriasis.
You're not celiac.
I'm not a celiac, but I used to have really bad eczema.
Yeah.
And I tried every cream, every single thing. Acupuncture helped, and the doctor said no yeast. So I stopped eating yeast, and it all went away.
Forgot where we were going with that. So I think for parents listening, because all the different ages, I would say do your research for natural remedies, because there are tons. TikTok, Instagram, every social media outlet out there now will give you 1 billion different remedies to help your child who might have ADHD, ADD, learning disabilities, whatever. There's so much information out there now that we didn't have, that you can just search, do your research, try it a little bit at a time. We are just hugely against psych meds for ADHD. I don't believe in them.
Well, what you're doing is you're numbing that child.
Right.
If God created everybody to be their own person, and you just put them on, like, it's almost like in a psychiatric ward.
Yeah.
When the people who keep banging their head up against the wall, like, just shut up, and they sit there with drool out of their mouth.
Yep.
That's what you're doing to your child, because he's not good at reading.
Right.
So you're literally cutting his brain off, not even talking about what it's doing to his kidneys, his livers, his psyche, everything. And then he's going to have a chemical dependence on that.
That's right.
And then you wonder why they start getting into hard drugs.
That's right.
Because they're using something else to get out of their mind.
That's right.
Versus learning how to get deeper into your mind and go get busy.
And understand what your gifts are.
In your gifts.
In your gifts,
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so we're going to continue this conversation, you guys. This is like such a lifetime conversation, and what my heart today was, and I want to have another conversation with my husband present, because he has a lot of great wisdom on, being the man in the family and guiding our son. But I do want to continue this conversation because I know you guys are desperate for help. Those moms listening who have kids that are not perfect, academic, driven children. But the parents that are desperate for some help, and let me tell you, you're not alone. My son is hugely successful in life now. He's an incredible human being, and that is the direction that you can have hope for. And we'll talk way more about this on the next podcast. But thank you so much for watching, and don't forget to please subscribe, like, and comment on this video, and share it. Please share it. You don't know who you are following or who's following you that is dying inside with their child, or maybe the child listening is the one that can relate with Michael. We'll continue this conversation, but thank you so much for watching. We'll see you guys next time.